Hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for October 18th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 292. I am Mayor Watt. The Sentient AI is on location, and we'll say hi on the other side of the intro. 23, and everyone knows me now. Continued. Fire station burns down. This is how the Matrix is born. TSMC may have breached sanctions. Absolute History, a distillery. Doggone it, The Descent. Beer-flavored beer. Higher calling Hurricane Relief IPA. The rail delays at the Port of Los Angeles. And my other car is driven by a 7-year-old. Briefly. So hello everybody, I am Mayor Watt, and the Sentient AI is back.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens, and thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
I keep wanting to say ohmTown Daily News Show too.
Mm-hmm.
So today we've got all of the articles all set up. Our production value is at an all-time high. We have how many total
You'd expect
episodes?
Nothing less. Over 1,400.
Over on the YouTubes, and you can downloads for the podcasts. Only 60 days exist for Twitch. Come on, Twitch. It's easier this way to not do it on Twitch. I mean, to not store it long-term on Twitch, because then it's like they've got a really major overhead kind of a thing, storing all that data like they do over on YouTube's. Anyway, let's get into the show. First article's over in Non Sequitur News. DNA records of millions of Americans could be exposed to mid-23andMe turmoil. It says this is a breach, but is this an old article that has been resubmitted?
I don't think so, because I think there's a new twist.
So this was published in the last 24 hours. Actually, this morning at 10 a.m. Marie Boren over at Newsweek.com put this article together, and it says privacy advocates warn that genetic information collected from over 15 million customers could be vulnerable to misuse, potentially impacting not only individual privacy but also that of their relatives, because the Digital Rights Foundation, Electronic Frontier Foundation specifically, has expressed serious concerns about the potential exposure of genetic information. EFF's staff attorney Maria Trujillo and associate director of digital strategy Jason Keeley highlighted the risks associated with any sale or transfer of 23andMe's vast DNA database, which sound familiar?
That's what you want. Well, I can't think of a specific company, but we talk about sales and mergers frequently on the show.
Well, remember, this company torpedoed itself through basically a data breach and then denying it and then blah, 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 blah.
And then a broader data breach, or at least disclosure of it.
Right. And then the CEO basically tells everybody, go to hell, essentially.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, in so many terms, hey, I'm going to do this. And the board goes, well, we're going to walk. So now they have carte blanche to do whatever they want.
I forgot this was the company that happened with, yes.
And remember,
and I think
said,
you predicted this.
This is exactly what I predicted. Basically, you torpedo it, and so there's nobody around except for whoever investors survived. It goes private, and then it sells. So in late 2023, 23andMe, which is ironic, and I'm proposing a name change. It's 23 and everybody knows me now.
I was thinking 23 companies and me have access to my data or something.
Wait, how about, what is that called when you come of age as a teenage girl? What do they call that?
Like a quinceanera?
Yeah, that's it. It's a 23andMe version of a quinceanera, right? So, and or wait, what else is a debutante ball? It's a debutante
right,
ball.
It depends
coming
on
out.
Which
right.
culture you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. So 23andMe has thrown off all vestiges of control and is showing itself to the world. I am A pretty, pretty butterfly. Ava Gulperin, Director of Cybersecurity at the EFF, advised users to consider deleting their data from the platform, but that doesn't mean that your data is deleted.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Plus, it doesn't really matter if it's deleted if it's already out there.
So today is a good day to log in and request the deletion of your data. You shouldn't have to request it. I should just be able to purge that shit from orbit. Just nuke it from orbit. Anyway, customers of Chinese and Ashkenazi Jewish heritage seem to have been specifically targeted in that breach, and some have filed a class action lawsuit against the company for failing to notify them about said breach, and the company attributed the breach to customers reusing passwords, but critics argue that 23andMe should bear responsibility for securing user data. There's no way in hell that this is caused by... You don't get access
Millions of people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one person's data or something, but
yeah.
Come on.
How about do a detection that somebody is systemically using a table to parse passwords?
And how would they be targeting certain
Specific
groups of people without really being in the company's system?
23andMe's transparency report, last updated on September 24th, claims that of the 11 law enforcement requests for personal customer data received by the company, no data was produced without prior explicit consent. But you're talking about a breach here. Having to rely on
a second. So the hackers got all the access, but the law enforcement didn't?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure I understood that.
So if you want access to 23andMe, you just hack your way in. It's apparently easier than following the law. God. So Jason Kelly of the EFF highlighted the possibilities of your data being released into the wild, but OPM does it too. So, well,
doesn't every organization that's of any size?
It's not if, but when. So use unique passwords. Don't use passwords. Use passphrases. They're much more information dense. So you're not going to get hacked as easily as if it's just a word. Don't ever use leet speak because that is just dumb nowadays. Yeah, definitely don't reuse anything, and don't do anything. Don't riff off of your publicly available information. So if you decide that you want to use the B1U3 because that's your favorite color, don't, because you've posted your favorite color on Facebook somewhere, and there's somebody that's willing to take the risk to use it as your password and try and log in. Anyway, go and delete your content from 23andMe before everybody else gets access to it. And frankly, I think it's disgusting.
Nobody... Well, I mean, it's just like the final
sure
stab or whatever. I mean, it's already been horrendous in terms of the type of data that you can get from all the breaches here, but
yeah,
to then sell the data on top of it.
Yeah, it's the final twitch of the greedy bastard corpse. I mean, they're going to try and use the information, private information, to capitalize on it outside of the fee that they would acquire. And instead of it being provided for research based on somebody specifically saying that I allow it, this is a change in the terms of the contract that anybody who signed up for this service agreed to. I.e., I can sell my data to anybody. Yeah, there's something wrong here, and I'm glad that EFF and others are going to sue them into oblivion. I hope that the information doesn't get exfiltrated prior and sold in back channels to somebody via somebody within the organization. I just find this all really disgusting. Medical information, something as profound as the very makeup of the human being, it should be protected beyond just a terms of use contract. But it's not. Let's move on. Slowly, I turn. So the next article is over in Non-Sequitur News. State-of-the-art fire station leveled by blaze. A new fire station in Germany that did not have a fire alarm system has been badly damaged by a blaze. In the ultimate irony.
Who designed the fire station?
I guess somebody who really embraces fire. So this article is over by Shamim Chowdhury over at newsweek.com, and the video really doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the video that's attached to this says fire service explains why you should sleep with doors closed. Yeah, because they're fire breaks.
Right, and then if a fire happens, it won't spread to multiple rooms.
Is this something that needs to be explained? I suppose. I'll just leave it alone. Anyway, oh my God, it doesn't say. Okay, this kind of watered down what this thing, state-of-the-art fire station, leveled by blaze. I happened to see this
picture earlier. Like, I didn't actually read the article, but I glanced at I opened the source, and I went, okay, yeah, I'm thinking like a little tiny fire in one room, like on a stove or something.
The snippet says that it was badly damaged by a blaze. But
yeah, look at this. I mean, it's like, is there a structure left?
The picture is nothing but the concrete foundation, or the concrete walls that are the perimeter of the bays for the fire vehicles. Oh God, and the fire vehicles are inside.
Oh no. Well, the other thing is, in addition to like, how did you design a fire station without this? Sadly, this sheds a negative light on the fire company too, because it's like, wow, you can't put out your own your own fire station's fire, right?
Dear God, this is ridiculous. The incident quickly led to the complete destruction of the equipment hall and nearly a dozen emergency vehicles. Around 170 firefighters battled the blaze. This is like a Home Depot, we sell hammers, we don't need cybersecurity kind of.
Yeah, maybe it is. It's like,
hubris.
Oh, we have so many firefighters on site, we don't need any fire safeguards.
Don't worry about it. They'll never go to sleep or have vacation.
Do you think this was this was the low bid, it didn't have a sprinkler or a fire alarm or whatever?
It should never have been allowed to be constructed without it. There should be building permits that prevent this from actually happening. Initial assessments estimated the damage was calculated to between 20 and 24 million euro, about 21 to 26 million dollars. No injuries. DPA. So according to the media outlet Euronews, local officials told the German news agency DPA that no fire alarm was installed in the building because experts had considered it not necessary, much to the astonishment of many observers now that the station has burned down. Experts considered it not necessary. Every structure...
Isn't it required?
Well,
I mean, in the U.S.
not.
It is.
Apparently not. Do you need fire safety in a barn?
Probably not, because it's probably not considered a residence.
Right.
I guess it depends on if it's attached to the dwelling, maybe.
Yeah, well, any dwelling that is designed for occupancy, which I guarantee you this has bays.
Oh, I agree.
Bays.
It probably has sleeping areas and everything.
Yeah, sleeping, food, a gym, all of that kind of stuff, it had to have. Anyway, this is absurd. So the fire spread at breakneck speed. I believe that is what happened will make many people think and act. I believe that what has happened will make many people think and act. There must be something in the translation there.
Yeah, that doesn't quite track, but I mean, who was thinking before this occurred? And where was everybody when this broke out? I know some fires do really take off quickly, but
yeah, well, I mean, without fire safety, like fire sprinklers and so on, the vehicles become fuel because they have gas tanks.
That's true.
And so it just opens up. But there's not everything inside a fire hall is going to be freaking flammable. So apparently it is. All of these vehicles were made of paper mache.
I was gonna say maybe the walls were like fire.
What's
not
that flash?
Philic, but basically like they attract fire.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, fire philic. What is that stuff from fireworks? The paper, that flash paper?
Oh, I thought you meant the gunpowder part.
Yeah, gunpowder. That's exactly it. Let's keep moving. The next article is over on the Model channel. Could injecting diamond dust into the atmosphere help cool the planet? I titled this is how the Matrix is born. So seriously, this is how the Matrix was born. They tried to stamp out the power generation through solar by spraying the atmosphere with material that would cause it to basically cloud over. Except that the robots figured out, hey, we can use humans. It's the same thing. It's the same premise for Snowpiercer as well. To combat global warming, they fired stuff into the atmosphere. And if I remember the Matrix right, I think that's what happened. But
I have mixed feelings about this, right? Like, it's like, okay, good, we're coming up with solutions. On the other hand, do we have any idea what we're doing?
No idea. So a multi-institutional team of climatologists, meteorologists, and earth scientists have found evidence that dropping diamond dust from an airplane into the atmosphere could cool the planet. I'm sorry, we don't know enough. We just don't freaking know enough. And this is idiocy. In their study published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters, the group used 3D climate models to compare aerosols. Sorry, fuzz just flew into my mouth.
It's that diamond dust.
Yeah. Anyway, it might cool the planet. So this is the kind of stuff that some goober is going to run with as soon as they have the authority. Oh, I don't know, becoming president maybe. Bob Yurka over at phys.org put the article together.
Yeah, but how many years will it be till somebody goes, it's not good for humans to breathe in diamond dust?
Well, some people are already saying it. That silence is me pointing at the Sentient AI from the future and Mayor Watt. Anyway, yeah, so this is, this should remain theory. Prior research has shown that Earth is at or near a tipping point. Warming of the planet has led to changes in global weather patterns that only grow worse as the planet grows warmer. And by worse, they don't mean just like hurricanes are bigger. It's that they end up in places they normally wouldn't go because the world is supposed to be in stasis. But human heat generation is causing anthropomorphic changes in the circle of life has led to where we are now, where the oceans are no longer effective heat sinks. And so you end up with a small Cat 5 hurricane that starts as a tropical storm 2 days earlier and rolls its ass all the way up the coast. How is this not?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and that's just one example. They get more chaotic. It shouldn't be that powerful, that fast, in that location, and then sustain itself, right? And it's going to be more of this, more chaotic, bigger, faster, more powerful tornadoes, sea rise, waves that are much more dangerous. Even California is sitting there telling people not to go in the water anymore because you have riptides that are much stronger than they ever have been. So anyway, the problem is that
many states are saying don't drive. I mean, it's just getting a bit absurd.
Yeah. So in this new effort, the researchers wondered what sort of material would best serve as a planet cooling medium, common sense. To find out, they built a 3D climate model that showed the impact of adding aerosols to the atmosphere, which we're already having problems breathing the air that we actually have. The software also included effects of different aerosols, such as light and heat reflection, how aerosols would eventually settle to the ground, and whether they'd clump together in the atmosphere, retaining more heat. The research team then modeled the impact on the Earth. 7 candidates. Calcite, great. Diamond, aluminum, or aluminium. Silicon carbide, which, I mean, these are hard particles. These are things that we're going to inhale and end up in our bodies. anatase, rutile, and sulfur dioxide, which great. Sulfur freaking dioxide. For crying out loud. If we don't
I
have
think that's
chemical
something
problems,
we've talked about in another context and not in a positive one.
right? It's like horrendous stuff. So it showed that the diamond dust would be the best option, which is kind of no shit news, except that we're going to get silicosis. We're going to inhale diamond dust, and our animals are going to, and it's going to coat plants, and it's going to be all over the place. Anyway, this is dumb. The model suggests that injecting 5 million tons of synthetic diamond dust into the atmosphere per year could cool the Earth by 1.6 C in 45 years. In the downside, it says that it would be $200 trillion. This is just the absurdity of publish or perish. I would love to know. We should send this, or I should send this to, what's her name?
Sabine?
Sabina, yeah. Anyway, there you go, folks. The birth of the Matrix and or whatchamacallit, the train.
Oh, Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer. There you go. Eat your jelly, whatever it is, made of bugs. We apparently eat bugs all the time, though. So, hey.
That's true.
Let's move on.
We don't even know it.
We don't even know it, but spider legs. So it's a perfect discussion point for Halloween. By the way, Halloween is only 11 days away, 12 days away. No, 13 days away.
Coming up soon.
Okay, well, the next article is over in Smack Talk because it's all about Apple, and this is about Apple. So TSMC may have breached U.S. sanctions. Apple chip production could be at risk. I really doubt it. U.S. Commerce Department is carrying
what does that mean for the new TSMC plant in the U.S.?
This isn't going to be a problem. U.S. Commerce Department is carrying out an investigation into whether Apple chipmaker TSMC breached U.S. sanctions against China by supplying smartphone and AI chips to Huawei. The probe was part driven by Huawei's surprising ability to resume competing with iPhones. Well, Ben Lovejoy put this article together over at 9to5Mac. Huawei smartphones used to compete strongly against iPhones, not just in China but worldwide. That ended when U.S. government imposed sanctions against China, prohibiting U.S. companies from exporting advanced technology to the country. That included U.S.-made 5G chips, and since you couldn't launch a premium smartphone without 5G, that effectively ended Huawei's ability to compete. However, things changed in 2023 when Huawei launched the Mate 60, which included 5G. Nobody could understand how that was even possible, that the Chinese companies did not have the technology required to make the chips. Even the U.S. National Security Advisor commented on the surprise development. Well, apparently, U.S. Department is investigating whether Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company may have been making artificial intelligence or smartphone chips for Chinese tech giant Huawei Technologies in what would be a breach of U.S. export rules, said two people with direct knowledge of the matter. Well, considering it's Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company and nobody is going to shoot TSMC in the foot to show, hey, you can't do that. Why? Because it's an external company that is the only one producing the chips for domestic companies. Even if they do bring it in-house.
Right, and they're already concerned about potential supply issues if something else happens related to TSMC.
Yeah. So it says if TSMC is found to have failed to comply with obligations, it could face penalties, which would impact the ability to produce future Apple chips. But if the integrity of TSMC is already in question, wherein China already owns them infrastructure-wise, that way TSMC can't say no to China. Otherwise, it shuts down wholesale, gets nationalized as a China asset, and then they just stop producing to Apple, which would trigger a trade issue and a geopolitical nightmare would come the moment that TSMC is taken over by a Chinese organization. I think that what's happening here is TSMC has been compromised and is forced to provide to whoever comes their way by way of China. So what we have domestically is all we're going to get, because we have to share TSMC with the rest of the world, which means our tech, anything innovated, anything developed technologically and then produced by TSMC, has to be called into question as to whereabouts. Where is our damn tech going?
Well, right. I mean, it certainly raises bigger questions.
So yeah, they mentioned that Apple's in no way involved, but could potentially find itself caught up in the aftermath of TSMC being found guilty of violating the embargo. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But this could come fast and furious, depending on how fast. And you're not going to get jack shit out of China. So this U.S. Commerce Department investigation is going to end at TSMC. And the rest is going to be rumor, right? Like insider information, being a quote unquote criminal informant kind of a thing. Yeah, this is going nowhere.
I think we'll hear more, though. We'll report it here.
Yep, we'll talk about it. This is actually from... Oh, no, it's not. Where is this all actually coming from?
Isn't this one from 9 to 5 Mac?
It is, but I'm trying to figure out where there might be more about it, like from another source, but I see all of the stuff is from 9 to 5 Mac. Oh, well, the information. Mm-hmm. There it is. Theinformation.com. I knew it was from somewhere else, just being proxied through 9 to 5 Mac. Yeah. All right, let's keep going though. The next article is over in Distillerist. Fossil fuels are history at Absolute Distillery. So the Pernod Ricard owned Absolute Vodka has phased out fossil fuels at its Swedish distillery and is now generating power entirely off of renewable energy sources. The brand has committed to making its distillery based in, I don't know, Nobelov, close to Aarhus. I'm trying my Harvard best, and I never went to Harvard, so you're just getting my best. Anyway, fossil free back in 2020. The plan to eliminate fossil fuels at the site before the end of 2025, and it looks like it's gotten there. The Absolute Group commented, "We're immensely proud that Absolute's distillery is now not only fossil free, but it has this goal achieved ahead of schedule. Running on fossil free distillery on this scale is no small feat." And I agree.
I mean, I think this is good. Maybe they'll set an example in this industry. Like, I think every industry or every major industry is probably tied to fossil fuels, but people don't think about it. Like, they might be anti-fossil fuels, but meanwhile, they're buying products that are heavily using them, and they're not even, like, they're contributing to it.
Yeah. And we just talked about a dipshit prospective effort to seed the skies with diamonds to address this. I mean, it's really absurd, but anyway. Rupert Howeiler over at thespiritbusiness.com put the article together, and they say, after reaching net carbon neutrality more than a decade ago, this latest achievement pushes us further towards our goal of a fully carbon neutral product by 2030. At the brand's distillery, 92% of the energy is being produced from certified green electricity, while the remaining 7% is from green fuel that is made in-house using waste spirits, which is admirable. Fine, that's great. And there is a lot. So you have heads and tails from any distilling process, and if you can reuse those as fuel, which you can, and cleaners and stuff like that come from that, beautiful. Just as long as the hearts are good, awesome sauce. So under normal circumstances, Absolute produces more than 100 million liters of alcohol per year, now entirely without the emission of fossil fuels.
Well, good for you. And hopefully others will follow suit, because if the consumers actually go, yes, we want this.
Yep. And now they can actually market it, like put,
like the only, or whatever.
If they don't do this, I'm going to scream. If they do not sit there and say absolutely green.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good marketing campaign.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Next article's over in Non-Sequitur News. A dog spotted atop Great Pyramid of Giza makes expert descent. I had heard about this thing. I think a drone had spotted it. There's a big video. It's over at abcnews.go.com. I don't know who. There's no byline, I don't think. Is it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh, it's just a video. So that's all there is. Let me see if I can play it. It's muted, so. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was at the top. There was a separate article in ohmTown, but I don't think that ever made it into our show.
I didn't pull it. Look at that.
I wonder if the dog goes up there all the time and it's just been spotted.
Yeah, and it had already been more than 2/3 of the way down by the time that somebody started recording, apparently. Pretty neat. Yeah. They can't do that with a human. Good luck.
Right.
Oh, yeah, look, it was really at the very top.
Okay.
Yeah, a drone had spotted it. I remembered seeing this.
Wow.
Oh, it wasn't a drone. Well, yeah, I guess.
It was a paraglider,
paraglider, yeah. Pretty cool. All right, let's keep moving. Next article is over in Of the Grape, but it's actually a beer thing. Beer-flavored beer can't save the category on its own. I'm not quite sure what this is all about, but the article starts out, I got a pitch the other day for hard water, not hard seltzer, hard water. Sounds impossibly niche, and it is, but there's actually a few brands out there that are trying to make fetch happen for this pseudo segment. The underlying thesis, to the extent that one exists, is that drinkers today love flavor and hate bubbles. Hard seltzer minus carbonation equals hard water. I guess. Don't overthink it. The article is over in vinepair.com. Dave Infante put this article together. And it says, whether this is a winning calculus remains to be seen, and with respect to all water hardeners out there, I don't particularly care at this moment. I'm glad that they're in charge of this article, though. So what I don't get is, who the hell says is that drinkers today love flavor and hate bubbles?
I thought, one of the appeals of beer and other drinks was the bubbles, the carbonation.
Yeah, people love carbonation. I'm sure there's a subset. Some people like still water, but I guess still water with alcohol is not beer, right? Right.
It just has the essence or whatever of beer, right? Because it's probably not technically whatever. Like, I'm assuming beer has carbonation as one of its elements.
I bring this latest innovation, they say here in the article, which consumer packaged goods investors on LinkedIn might bucket in the so-called fourth category of beverage alcohol as only a point of comparison to beer-flavored beer. The latter beverage is not doing particularly well at the moment, and I don't think its bubbles are to blame. See, I don't get that. Maybe
I don't either. It seems like there's an uptick in beer consumption, but we've seen another article to this effect.
I think that it's craft beer that is taking away from a significant portion of mass beer, right? So the ones that come from mega corporations, people are realizing there's enough diversity out there in the beer drinking world that it's crap. So known as core beer or traditional beer in industry circles, beer-flavored beer is what it sounds like, a fermented beverage that hews closely to a familiar traditional style. Lager, for example, is beer-flavored beer, and a wonderful example at that. But the phrase also has become something approaching a rallying cry for the many craft brewers who yearn for the days when drinkers came to them thirsting for the stuff that they wanted to brew. Those days weren't very long ago. White Claw's been on the market for just 8 years. So, yet here we are. Beer sales struggled over the summer in the aggregate. Both Molson Coors, Anheuser-Busch InBev, standard bearing light lagers are down year to date in volume, but that's what I'm talking about. Nobody wants this
routine or whatever.
Bland flavored beer. Mass produced. It's basically water, and it's barely beer flavored beer. So Yeah. And it says has succeeded in defining beer flavored beers occasions so well over the years to drinkers that the beer now seems less versatile than it is, and worse, less than its fourth category competition. But no, I think that it's more about the fact that the craft industry is chomping at the bit to kick mainstream beer's ass. And I think it's
Right. And
doing
aren't consumers demanding, I don't know, more variety, more quality?
Yeah, I think so too. It's the smaller breweries that are, I think, that are succeeding. But it says a recent analysis of 2024 Brewers Association survey data by Sightlines, a subscription platform that offers analysis of the alcohol, cannabis, and functional beverage industries, shows that despite the incredible variety in the modern American beer aisle, consumers mostly consider domestic import and craft beer as highly interchangeable with one another. In other words, if it feels like it's time for a beer, any kind of beer will do. And if it doesn't, well, tough shit, brewers. Again, I think microbreweries are taking enough away, and maybe it's being discounted in this analysis. But I'd have to go
Right.
and look at
There's
it.
also a greater economic consideration. While I'm sure a lot of people would give up many things before their beer, if you can't afford to buy your eggs or your whatever, are you really buying as much beer?
Right. Yeah. To consumers, at least, beer is an incredibly flexible beverage platform in the jargon. Kettle sours, pastry stouts, hazy India pale ales. I mean, I don't drink any of those styles regularly as a matter of personal preference, but each has enjoyed considerable commercial success with the American drinking public at one point or another. Again, I think that there is a tremendous amount of local breweries in each state in the United States, and it's just as complex out in the rest of the world that has beer drinking, to the point where I think that there's enough being pulled away from mass production. So,
Well, don't you think also like the internet, like YouTube or anything else, is actually contributing to that as well, right? Because it's showing viewers like, oh, look at these cool beer types, or it's
and
always featuring like the craft brews and everything.
yeah, and anybody can brew. You can brew at home. It's not illegal anymore, and distillation is right around the corner, I think. It'll come in time, but it takes educating the public and educating the administrivia of local, state, and federal. Here in the States, elsewhere, some places allow it. You know, I watch somebody regularly that in New Zealand, actually several. So somebody in Canada distills regularly. Somebody in Europe distills regularly. In New Zealand and Australia, it's wild. So, but beer brewing, like I use a thing called an igulu, and I am actually trying to put a show together that focuses on that because I think that it's a very powerful tool and you can do a lot with it, much more than what people are traditionalists are giving it credit for. But at any rate, so I think that making beer more personal and hyper-local is hammering the stats. But I'll have to do some due diligence and we can end up talking about it. So toward the end of the conversation, Roth points out approvingly to Firestone Walker's recent introduction to turbo rattlers, not a thing as far as the beer judge certification program is concerned. Under its Mind Haze brand family, as another instance of prioritizing flavor over experience. Does Lemon Rage Turbo Rattler qualify as beer flavored beer? They've yet to try it, but they suspect probably not, which is fine. But it is a category. Let me see if I can. Sorry, I'm getting these little clicks. So it, like rattlers, I think fall in the same categories as shandies, which is beer and like cider mixed with lemon flavor. But I think that it says it's 2 parts beer, 1 part lemonade or lemon lime soda. And so it's basically a non-brewed um, citrus drink, right? I mean, it's still a
Right. So
beer.
it's getting, but it's getting far away from what somebody would think of beer traditionally, even though it
Right,
has beer in it, right?
right. Because you can get to a New England IPA that's way heavy on the citrus, and it's entirely born from its yeast and from its hops, and marginally the water, because you have to
But
do
tastes very different than a traditional ale or lager.
lager. Yeah, 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 for sure. So then they talk about hops apocalypse and other things in this article. So it's quite comprehensive. But we're going to bow out of this article and move on to the next one, which is, hold on a second. I have to get back to the chat, lest I miss. Oh, by the way, if you want all of the articles from today and we're 40 minutes into the show, you hit !NSN. If you hear this over on YouTube, you can come over to Twitch and do it, because ohmTown is always available. So Asheville Brewery shares recipe for a viral higher calling hurricane relief IPA in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Asheville Brewery Dissolver, DSSOLVR, because I guess they ran out of vowels.
Yeah, or maybe dissolver was taken with all the vowels.
That's right. So it turned its, and you can brand easily around that. So, well, still a spelling bee, but anyway, non sequitur distraction there. Turned its location into a donation hub for free water and food. First, the brewery gave away the 1,000 gallons that it had stored to make beer. Then it brought in more donated supplies to distribute to anyone in need.
Good for them.
That is awesome. Kyle Philippi over at Vice.com put the article together. They made a custom sign that said water and supplies, and they have like full-on barrels behind them. And since they're a canning operation as well, right? You can actually just make your own. You can can water. You can buy a machine that allows you to make it. Even at, again, like home brewers can can their own beer. It breaks the oxygen envelope, but you can still do it. So in the aftermath, they basically spun up a distribution system. And so far, according to Dissolver co-founder Vince Tercy, 100 breweries from California to Vermont have expressed interest.
I mean, this is really cool. So it looks like they have a new recipe, but they're giving it out to other breweries to sell outside of the area, and then it goes toward the hurricane relief.
Yep, yep, yep. So it says, we're looking for breweries to join us in brewing higher calling. We'll provide a label, a recipe base, and a list of suppliers offering discounted rates. We ask in return that 100% of the net profits be donated to this charity, and that you share your involvement on social media and share a unique and positive memory of yours about our beloved WNC. Send an email to highercallingbeer@gmail.com and we'll send you everything you need to get started. After you've sold the beer, we'll ask for proof of donation so that we can track the impact of this initiative. And
This is cool. I hope this gets a lot of traction. And I think if you're in the US, you could ask your local brewery if they're participating.
yep, so that's what's going to happen either tomorrow or Sunday. So I'm going to be swinging by a place to sample their wares, and I'm going to promote this particular project. So it says, so keep an eye out, as you'll likely be seeing higher calling beer popping up near you over the coming weeks. Anyone can grab the recipe and labels here. So they're either, it seems like they're even moving away from the locations selling it. They're actually giving the recipe and labels away at this website, but maybe I haven't followed it. So I think the ask was that if you're going to brew it and sell it, then 100% of the
Then you give
profits.
the profits. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
So,
I think it was developed specifically for this effort,
right.
maybe not an existing recipe, but it looks like it's based on one of theirs.
Yeah, so they're calling it Higher Calling Beer. You can go to highercallingbeer.com. I don't know if the recipe is actually there, but if you're a home brewer, I would probably I suggest going to your local breweries and suggesting that they spin this up and sell it. It does take a couple of weeks to get to a real beer, although you can fast track it in 13 days. About.
Yeah, and the article says that it should start appearing by the end of October, and that would account for that time frame.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know when this actually got posted. Not for us. I know that it came in the last 24 hours because that's how our news cycle is. But if they had released this, right after the Helene disaster, I would have already been out there because we've gone to other places to sample their wares. Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to the next article. So this next article is over in Hatch Ideas. It's about the Port of Los Angeles freight rail delays reach 2-year high with holiday and everyday items piling up. So record September imports of the at the Port of Los Angeles, driven by the East Coast strike, have led to 2-year high cargo congestion at rail yards, and that's in the Port of Los Angeles, so on the opposite side of where the strike took place.
Interesting.
The article is over at CNBC. They have this article that's been going or a segment that's been going for quite some time now, since pretty much we've started streaming, called State of Freight. And Lorianne LaRocco is the author of this series because they focus on, I think, freight. But anyway, retail and chemical industry executives are among expressing concerns about the port rail delays, and DHL is among the logistics firms advising clients to move rail-bound freight back to the East Coast. Because everybody said, well, the strike is coming, let's move stuff to the other coast. But the problem there is that strike went away and had that much of an impact.
That's true.
I mean, the ones that caught it in time were less than halfway over to the West Coast. So
these things can't change, right? Like it takes weeks if there's a shift in route or transportation mode or whatever.
Yeah, and it's pretty difficult. I mean, you would have to change your logistics from where the source port of distribution is so that you can ship to the West Coast, because you can't get from the East Coast to the West Coast.
I was going to say that's the main challenge, right? Like if you're en route to the East Coast, you're not getting to the West Coast really.
Not
right?
In a timely
you would have
manner.
to ship from a different country or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're going way out of the way.
Yeah. Or your ship fits through a canal. So he stressed that the rail congestion is not leading to any additional issues at the port as far as vessel and trucking operations. This is not impacting port operations. We want to make sure we improve on all port operations. The railroads continue to be our focal point. So it's basically that there's enough coming into the port, but there's so much that's going from the West Coast to the East Coast that's now hobbling distribution, because now trains have to go from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast to fulfill delivery. So October is shaping up to be another strong month. We see no precipitous signs of a pullback. We're looking at the mid 800,000, I think it's total units.
Oh, something units, yeah. Equivalent, 20-foot equivalent units.
Yeah. And so 800,000 TEU, and we have an early Lunar New Year. With tariffs, we may see an uptick of cargo in early to avoid those extra costs, depending on the presidential outcome, and unemployment claims are down. So a whole lot of people are buying stuff, and production is up because it was an early New Year. And so at the Port of Los Angeles, the rail dwell for containers are about 7 days, but the port is not experiencing congestion. So there's enough room at the port, but it's not getting the hell out of there fast enough because
right, which that's kind of a problem because that's going to create a major backup.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Even at the port, it's going to back up because stuff can't get moved out fast enough.
Right. And then at some point it creates a backup in the ocean,
Yep,
etc.
yep. So there you go, folks. All I want, though, is to make sure that my coffee and periodic infusions of chocolate are made manifest. Excuse me. Lorianne LaRocco, thank you over at CNBC. Okay, let's move on. Our last article for today is over in the Mobile channel. School bus. Yeah. So the silence is stunned silence yet again because a school bus driver asks a 7-year-old to drive and she instantly crashes the bus. Allegedly, a bus driver in Independence School District allowed a young Missouri girl named Elena Cheffin, which I don't think that they should have named her, but it's in the article.
I don't either. And I think this sentence, because I actually did look ahead at this one, it mischaracterizes what happens.
Oh, really? Okay. To drive a school bus is some sort of training showing kids what to do in case of an emergency.
Right?
Quote,
This suggests like the girl asks, "Can I drive the bus or something?" And the driver lets her.
yeah, and I guess what really happened was the bus driver said, "Hey, if there's an emergency, this is what you do." But apparently, oh, look at that. iGulu is now on Amazon. Anyway, yeah. So I just got an alert. So, quote, I was blown away. It was actually my child that was instructed to be behind the wheel of a bus, Cheffin's mother, Ambrosia Holt, told the local Fox outlet. She said her daughter told her all about the incident after it occurred. So 3 Trails Elementary, we're doxing the hell out of all of these people.
I know. I don't really get that, but I'm glad that they're publicizing that this occurred.
It's all published, so I mean, there's really no issue here, other than the fact that I have a personal problem with the doxing. But Sammy Caramella over at Vice.com put the article together. So the elementary alerted parents that there'd been a minor incident involving your child's bus during drop off this morning, where one bus slowly rolled into another while on school grounds. The situation was handled promptly and with care. Of course, they failed to disclose the child driver and the actual tone of the incident.
Did they even know?
So, but both the 7-year-old and the transportation supervisor confirmed to Fox that the bus driver had been given students instructions on what to do if she were to have a medical emergency. And she allegedly showed the kids how to open the school bus's windows and doors and apparently showed them how to drive.
I mean, the first part actually sounds like a good thing. In fact, they should probably do that regularly, but this went a little too far.
Yeah, 7-year-old isn't capable of driving a school bus. And when they do, it could lead to greater harm because they're short of stomp on the brakes. That's it.
Which could still be a problem depending on what other things are around, or it could spin the bus, or I mean, any number of things.
If it's at high speed or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So it says, quote, she told me to press that thing, and when I pressed it, it made the whole bus go backwards, she said. Then I pressed the gas button, and it stopped out of nowhere. Cheffin's 10-year-old sister had also been on the bus. When it happened and we hit the back of the bus, she just didn't say anything, and she went back and she parked it like nothing was happening. So.
Oh, wow. So the driver didn't even address like, okay,
issue.
everybody, it's okay. We'll be okay. Because I'm sure the kids were upset. She forced the kid to drive, and then there's an accident, which could be kind of traumatizing to a kid, I would think.
Yeah. Or fun, depending on who the kid is. So really depends.
That's true.
So if I stomp on the gas, I'll drive over that VW bug. Awesome.
Yeah, but that kid would have volunteered to drive the bus.
Sure. Yes, they're running from the back. My turn.
Exactly.
Get out the seat. I'm ready. I've been stealing mom and dad's car for weeks. ever since that 8-year-old drove to Target.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we even talked about that. All right, folks. Well, when we smash ohmTown.com into some other .com and regain our consciousness, we'll be back at the front page of ohmTown.com, which means that it's the end of the show. Huzzah! I am Merwat, and that is the Sentient AI's visualizer and their voice.
Good night, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News. I thought you were still talking.
I know. Oh, nothing else. Okay, well, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Hey, officer, can I